Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. Today we have the agent, coach, personality, commentator, Ari Zakarian. Ari, welcome to the skating lesson.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, my friends. Hello, figure skating fans. It's so glad to be here. And let's start it.
Yeah. Ari, we miss you commentating, but I wanted to ask you and have a chance for people to get to know you because, you know, you're kind of like Cher in skating. You've always been there. Everyone like knows who you are, but I don't think they know your full story. So, you know, where are you from? Where did you start skating? Yeah.
Okay. Originally, I'm Armenian. I was born in Armenia, in the capital of Armenia, city called Yerevan, which is 29 years older than Rome in Italy. So the city is where I was born, 29 years older than the city of Rome in Italy. So, and I started when I was, started skating when I was 4 years old in Armenia, and then I left the Armenia to St. Petersburg, Soviet Union. And Alexei Mishin was my coach for 8 years. I won 4 times Leningrad State Championship, and I was Soviet Union Junior Silver Medalist in 1982. Okay. So that's how far we go. And one more thing, which is I'm so proud of myself. In 1978, I was the first one who did the cantilever in the competition.
So Trusova should thank you.
It's Shoma.
So a long time ago, yeah, cantilever. I was first time performed in the competition. I believe it was me. I hope so.
Did you do it before Natalia Besmianova?
Well, Natalia didn't do by herself, in my opinion. No. And I think I do not follow that exactly, but in the competition alone by myself, it was 1978.
So Professor Mishin back then, did he have many good jumpers? Because we know him from the 90s with Romanov and, you know, Plushenko and Yagudin. You know, who was he coaching back then? Well,
when I joined him, when he was my coach, at the time there were skaters like Vitaly Yegorov.
Okay.
I'm talking about 78, 79. And there was Anya Antonova, who is a coach right now in France. Marina Serova, who was world silver medalist in junior, I believe. And she lives in UK, and her husband is Yuri Bureyko. And so those days, probably the biggest name was Vitaly Yegorov.
Okay.
He was already at the time, he was doing triple axels and quad jumps and everything, but he finished early. And when I left to USA 30 years ago, so yeah, and that's where Mishin started really picking up Alexei Urmanov, because 4 years after when I left, Alexei became the first Olympic champion of Russia. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Yagudin and Plushenko, and then etc. And then, I mean, Mishin for me is a god in the skating. I have a huge respect. The guy is almost 80 years old, and he's always on the ice. And his soul is young, and his knowledge is tremendous. He has so many interesting stories, and the way he taught me. I mean, I used to take him for 8 years, as I said. So I learned so much from him. Not only techniques and quality of jumps and all the other things. I learned a lot from him as of the way to work, the way to communicate. To me, he is like one of the biggest mentors in my life.
Okay.
Now, can I jump in here and ask a quick question? Sorry, Dave. Sure. So I'm so intrigued. I have all these great Armenian friends, and I always ask them, like, do you have any knowledge of Armenian skating? Because there was this generation where people like you, people like Rob, are kind of coming out of this place where I don't associate much skating history. What was the skating scene like there? Like, how does one in Armenia kind of get into skating?
Well, when we started in Armenia, it was a long time ago, and they opened up this first skating school in Armenia, and by the time I was 4 years old, and my parents, they took me to the school, and I was welcomed, and I was selected as a skater. But for the next 2 years, we didn't have ice. So, you know, we were practicing on the ballet floor with skates. Like
it was like COVID, yeah. You only off ice, okay.
So we were wearing skates, and we were skating on the ballet room. So, and also at the night time, because Armenia is not like a cold country like Russia. At the night time in the winter, our parents were finding little places in the street where the water was frozen. So like 2 or 3 o'clock a.m., they were taking us to this like little piece of water, frozen water, and we were trying to skate there, and that's how we were. That's how we grew up, basically.
Okay.
Crazy time, but you know what? The generation which we were at the time, which I'm talking about, many big names came out from that generation, from my days. It's you know, Gurgen Vardanyan. He's now the head of the Hungarian Federation, and at time he won the Soviet Union Cup, and he was an international competitor, very good one. And his sister right now is a big name in the Moscow figure skating society. And then Samuel Ayrapetyyan, whose son is Slavik Ayrapetyyan, who is skating. So he was also at the same generation as I was. And then there is a guy named Sarkis Tevanyan, who is running the Polish skating. And we had another guy, Sahak Mkhitaryan, who unfortunately died, but he was one of the first one was already doing back in 80s quadruple jumps. So we had a really strong Armenian skating group at the time. But you know, time flies, and also now we have a lot of big name Armenians are running actually in the figure skating world.
Yeah.
Now, how did you wind up in Odessa? Because you were telling me before Jonathan signed on that you did take from Galina Znievskaya for a couple of years. So how did you wind up in Odessa?
In 1984, when I won my 4th Leningrad title, next day I broke my leg, like badly. So it was like during the practice. So, and then at the time, back in Soviet Union, it was, we had to serve the army. So it was a mandatory. And Soviet Union at the time, it was Ukraine also was a Soviet Union. So my father went to Ukraine and he made a deal so that I will skate for the Ukrainian Odessa skating army group. So that's how I went to Odessa, and I didn't go to the army to carry the gun and do some crazy stuff. And I was representing the Ukrainian Odessa skating army school, and my coach was Galina Zmievskaya, to whom I'm so thankful. She was another biggest experience in my life. So my life, the chapter, it was like, first it was, I learned from Armenia, and then I learned from Mishin, and then I learned from Galina, and then I was back again to Leningrad, and that's where I started with Leningrad Ballet on Ice. So it's like a big company. So it goes on and on.
How did you wind up in the ice shows? Because you were in Champions on Ice, right? Yeah.
We skated there, yeah, with my partner. We were not on tour like a full time, but we were guest skaters, which is, I mean, for us, it was a dream come true. Back when we came back after the army, back in '88, we started, me and my partner Akop, we started in Leningrad Ballet on Ice as a single skaters, and then we decided to do Armenian folk dance, and we created this kind of acrobatic comedy, unique type of performance where you know, 2 male skaters start doing something different than usual skaters they do. And we immediately, we find out that we became so popular, and like we didn't have to do anymore all the group numbers, so we were only performing our own routine, and we were having a really good response, and we became top skaters in a company of Leningrad Ballet on Ice. And after that, and then we start traveling. We went to Korea, Greece, Finland, Poland, so Hungary. So we start traveling with the ballet company, which was in those days in Soviet Union, it was very difficult to travel because, you know, it was the Iron Curtain, I would say, you know, the country was closed. So unless you are a performer with big companies, then you can travel. Then the break of the Soviet Union came, and before the break, so we somehow decided to move to USA because we find out that the opportunities are going to be in USA, and the situation in Soviet Union was really bad. And there was, I mean, we all know it was like disaster time, the mafia and the killings and no food, no nothing. But we left before everything started going in a worse scenario. So we left right before the Soviet Union broke down. And when we came to United States, actually Akop came first. He came 1 month before me. And we were always on, I mean, the way we came here was a whole long story. I mean, this is another like show we will do. I mean, it's a whole movie. So he was working in the Armenian church on 34th Street on 2nd Avenue. He was just a regular church worker, cleaning up and all the other things. But all we had our weapon was our skates. So, and he gave the video of our skating to Jojo Starbuck.
Okay.
Our Jojo, yeah. So, and also he made a phone call to Ice Theater of New York, to Moira North.
Okay.
And then when I came next month, 1 month later, so I remember when I came to New York, first I went to this apartment, 3-bedroom apartment in Avenue J and 19th Street in Brooklyn, and it was 14 people were living there. Yeah, 14. Yeah. It was crazy. So that's when we already contacted Moira. So Moira says, you know, guys, yeah, wait, like there is another very funny story. So when I came there, also Igor Spielman, very good friend of mine, he was in Detroit already at the time. So I called him, I said, listen, I'm here in US, need help. You're already here for 1 year. Tell me what to do. He was like, well, come over. So a friend of mine bought a car. By the time Akop was working in the church. So I went with a friend of mine. He bought a car for $600, Honda. And with that car, we went from New York to Chicago, to Detroit. So we came to Detroit, and I was like, oh, okay, thanks so much. Okay, this is my location now, bye. So I stepped down in downtown Detroit, and I called to Igor, and his wife picked it up, and she was like, well, we've never been in Detroit downtown. She was like, you know, where is your location? I was like, well, this is my location. So anyway, in 1 hour, she came and picked me up. So I came to this 2-bedroom apartment, I believe, or 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment Igor Spielman was renting. And he started explaining to me, see, this is like, he was talking about like students, insurance, those kind of words, which is for me was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? So anyway, he was educating me. And when I came to USA, I had on my pocket $613. That was like all my money. And then that day, Akop calls me and says, Lisa, we got a job. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you have to immediately come back to New York. We got a job. And I just came to Igor, and Igor was going to help me out to find my place in USA. And then I said, Igor, I have to go back to USA, to New York, because Akop is waiting for me. He told me that we got a job and I need to immediately fly. He was like, well, okay, if you don't, I mean, what can I say? He was like, you have to go, you have to go. So we find the ticket for $314 one way. So out of 613 minus 300.
299 left. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like really nervous how I'm gonna leave. So I'm flying to New York. Immediately I'm going to, there is a wonderful lady named Violet Egan. So in her house, there was this like meeting kind of where I was supposed to come, and then we were going to get a job according to Akop, my partner. So I came there and we come to this house, nice reception. Welcome guys. Armenians came up from the Soviet Union. Hi, this is Moira, this is Violet, and Akop was there, and Akop like, we got a job. So then with Moira, the person, Moira North, who called Akop, tell like, well, guys, come over to have a kind of cocktail with us. So apparently it was not a job offer. It was just the kind of Moira trying to be nice, told Akop, why don't you come over and let's kind of get to know each other.
Or a $300 cocktail.
So it was like, it was the most expensive coffee of my whole entire life. But it was worth it because that's where I met Moira Nord, who changed my life, who completely changed everything in my life. First of all, her company, Ice Theater of New York, they sponsored me and Akop and our great lawyer, George Axt, who did like really good job, and we got all the paperwork so like very quickly, and we became members of Ice Theater of New York, and we learned so much coming from Soviet Union system, and the greatest choreographer Rob, like who was like Ice Theater's like greatest person, and we start performing with Ice Theater of New York. And the experience that I learned from that company, it helps me until today. It changed entirely the vision of the figure skating for myself. Because of Moira, we had to perform with greatest people of like whom I like admire all my life. Gary Beacom, Toller Cranston. I mean, there were so many of them, but those two guys, you know, it's like, it's unbelievable that we were able to perform with them. And of course, Moira did like unbelievable help to us. Then next stop was for us that we performed with Rockefeller Center opening with Jojo Starbuck. And Jojo was the next person that really also make that trampoline for our future. So those two wonderful women, I would say, changed our life, me and my partner Akop. Then we went to Disney, we became principal skaters. And I think in the history of Disney, I think we were the only skaters that we performed. They were calling our names. We were doing our own Armenian number that we started back 4 years before. And like they were calling our names. We were not Mickey Mouse, and we were Ari. And for that, I'm also so proud of myself because we can say that we also made some kind of a history. Then after Disney, another step for us was the Sun Valley. Sun Valley, where we spent about 6 summers, I believe, where we performed with all the top skaters, like all the biggest names in the figure skating history. And in between 91 and 96, 97, we pretty much performed like in almost all the biggest shows, TV specials, ABC, Scott Hamilton special, many of the shows with Nancy Kerrigan, with Ice Theater, of course, Champions on Ice, we skated Alice Through Wonderland, the Nancy special, which is until now it's on ABC videos. Well, we've done a lot of good work, and the thing that we work with so many companies, we became good friends with so many promoters. We became like really quality friends. So then when skaters like from the Soviet Union start calling me and asking me for help because, you know, people start defecting, things were getting worse. We were already very well experienced people here back in the USA, and we start using our good friendship with promoters, and we start helping the skaters, like basically me, who start like going to that direction. And of course, we started like, we were the first skaters with art on ice. And from that year, for 25 years, I'm a good friend with Oliver Honer. And in every year, I've been part of Art on Ice now as an agent. It's been a really interesting journey for me. Like so many cool stories, so many interesting stuff was happening. So I mean, sometime I will tell you like more details.
So how did you wind up on the Rosie O'Donnell show, translating Svetlana Khormykh after the 2000 Olympics? It's like that is, oh my God, small world.
Oh, you find that?
I watched it when it aired. You know all my favorite people, Ari, okay?
Oh my God. Well, another good friend of mine, Mike Burke, who was working, Mike Burke is Edge Marketing.
He worked with Tara Lipinski, right? Or
yeah, he was Tara's agent. And he also was working for gymnastics. He was doing the gymnastics show. So at the time, in 2000, they were producing the gymnastics tour in USA. So he asked me to be a translator for Khormykh. And I was like, sure, let's do it. So I went to Rosie O'Donnell.
Now, you actually were Plushenko's agent, correct? How did this happen? How did you start working with Evgeni and all of this? Yeah.
Well, after that crash that we all know, I started, you know, Mark Lam from International Skating Magazine.
Yeah.
So he offered me a position called International Skaters Liaison.
Okay.
Because, you know, I travel so much and I've been always in the shows and I'm like always in the dressing room and I like very open in communication. So I started helping him out, taking pictures, doing mini stories. So I became kind of a journalist. So, and then he sent me to the European Championships. At the time it was, I believe, Milano. So that's where I came. And that's when Plushenko came with Alexei Mishin. Plushenko, the little boy, came and then doing all these quad jumps in exhibition and triple axels. And Mishin, as I said, he is my good friend now and my mentor. So we decided, with my experience, I would start helping Plushenko. So from that day, I kind of start getting him gigs and helping him for right direction. And also already at the time, my English was pretty good already, kind of. So that's how I started. So
who came up with the idea for Sex Bomb then?
That's the idea of choreographer David Avdish, I believe. You know, David with the curly hair like this. He's like, he looks like a wild guy, but he's a really good guy. I believe he was the one who brought it up, this idea to Mishin and Plushenko. And at the beginning, I didn't like it, you know, but I personally didn't like that number because I thought, like, you know, Plushenko is such a quality skater. And for me, I want to see if someone doing like a really cool stuff, like a difficult technical stuff, I want them to do these kind of things, not to cover up with the muscles or cover up with the clothes. You know, at one time, I remember when Scott Hamilton told me that, you know, when you're getting older, you have to start being more creative, like what to use on the ice with the props to cover up if your technical ability is not good enough anymore. But for Plushenko, I think at the time, that's what I was thinking, that he could have done it without wearing like a costume or something. But that number became his trademark.
Yeah. So right now you were in Russia, you go back and forth to the US, and we were talking a little bit that, you know, you were telling me that, you know, figure skating is really the #1 sport in Russia right now. So
Correct.
what, you know, there are so many champions who are starting to retire, but you know, they want to keep, they can still obviously do triple jumps, they can still skate very well, but maybe they're not competitive against the girls who are doing quads, but there's not really a venue for them. So Ari, can we put a show together with like Rodionova, Sotnikova? Like, we need all of the top skaters to really be competing against each other.
You're talking about Russia?
Yes, all
Okay.
the personalities, you know.
Okay. See, in Russia right now, there are so many. Like last year at the Christmas time, in a month of December and January, there were, I calculated, nearly about 700 shows. 700.
Okay.
Like, I'm talking about overall. Like 26 shows by, I believe 26 shows Navka, 30 shows Averbuch, 28 shows, I believe, Plushenko. And then there was so many, like, on and on. And I'm not talking about like other, even small companies, but overall, there was amazing amount. And skating here is so popular that, just to tell you, today there was the Russian Cup of competition where the biggest name was Anna Shcherbakova.
We watched.
Yeah, we watched. Yes. Okay.
I'm sure you do. You did. And they show that on Channel 1, Russia Channel 1, it covers the small event. I mean, even Channel 1 covers the Russian test skates, which is amazing. Can you believe, like, if ABC or NBC will cover practice of the USFSA
Champs Camp, yeah.
Champ Camp, yeah. And the numbers are huge, like the viewers, and that's amazing. So here, right now, of course, it's not difficult to do shows, but right now we have nearly about 7 companies, I would say, they trying to do shows and they becoming competitors. Like at the time it was Stars on Ice and Tom Collins. So before it was Stars on Ice and Tom Collins and maybe a couple of small companies, but now imagine there are at least 4 big companies right now and another 3, 4 like small companies in Russia. But this is Russia.
So I'm curious to ask then, because obviously in the United States, we're in a decline for sort of in viewership and all this sort of stuff. Do you think that this Russian boom of popularity came because of the depth of the amount of stars you had? Was it the results that all the Russian ladies started being so competitive that the public got more involved? Or were they just going to come there anyway?
Well, first of all, I would say it's all started from 2006 Olympics in Torino, where the Russians pretty much won everything except only Slutskaya, I mean, did medal, but she didn't win. Anyway, from that point, the rise of Russian figure skating, it came so vertical and quick that 14 years passed. I mean, every year it started booming and booming. Also, you know, in Russia, they produce these skating TV shows, like celebrity shows in 2 different channels at the time. Now it's only one. And we all know, like, which celebrity they skate. Also, at the time, the economics of the Russian people started getting much better and they start making good money. So 2006, I would say, it was the start of growing of the rising of the Russian figure skating. Also, the president and the government, they really support figure skating, and not only figure skating, they support the sport, which is, I cannot say it as an American, I cannot say about USA. In USA, I mean, basically government doesn't support the sport, but here government really support the sport, like in a big way. You know, like skaters, they win the Olympic Games, they get a car, they get an apartment, they get $150,000 bonus and things like that, you know. And a lot of people, they want to become a figure skater because they know Like at the time when Tara Lipinski and Michelle Kwan was skating, a lot of young girls, they wanted to become skaters because they know that for the future, they can have money, they can have a stability, I mean, which is good for them.
Yeah. Now, interesting is that one of your clients that you've worked with, Evgenia Medvedeva, you know, has been in the news the last week, moving back to Eteri. You know, what do you think about, you know, her future in the sport? You know, what could her pro career look like? What could her, you know, future, you know, competitively and on and off the ice look like?
Yeah. Well, first of all, she's not kind of my client,
Okay.
but I work with her. I mean, I do several gigs, and I would not say officially I'm an agent,
Okay.
but I'm involved in some kind of operations and some kind of shows. I mean, not only with her. I mean, I'm involved with a lot of the other skaters. But of course, to her, I have very special kind of connection because of, you know, as an Armenian, I always look up for the Armenian people, and her native is, she's an Armenian, so which is, you know, I always not admire, I'm not nationalist, but I'm always proud of people that came from my homeland, like Kim Kardashian, like Charles. Yeah. I mean, there are so many of them. Anyway, she switched to Eteri. I would say, first of all, you know, that breakout from each other, I think it was painful for both of them. And I could see the way in the competitions, the way they look at each other, the way they kind of get nervous when they pass each other, that intensity was always there. And sooner or later, that was going to happen somehow. I either become good friends again or have some kind of normal communication. But it happened that, you know, after the test skate, when we all saw how everything went to, and as we understand also, Medvedeva was always comfortable skating in Canada. She was very comfortable, and she always admired and she loved Brian, and for her, Brian, I mean, she always talked very highly about Brian. But here we all stuck. I mean, they stuck basically. They all stuck here, and I mean, for her to always practice with the using, you know, iPhone or iPod, it becomes ridiculous. I mean, we all understand, you know, Zillow made a lot of money right now, and internet, a big communication tool, but you know, that's not the way you wanted to skate. You want to have like manual and personal type of help. I think that could be one of the reasons, and also we don't know what's gonna happen, you know, for next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, if we're gonna be able to travel or not. So what they talk to each other, I don't follow, and I do not want to ask because it's a personal, but you know, she went there. Now, according to press, they are very comfortable, they are happy. And if Medvedeva is gonna do in the future better job, it's only, I mean, God bless, what can I say? It's gonna be tough, it's gonna be really difficult because the level of the skaters in Russia, like absolutely amazing. But we'll see, you know, at least it's still kind of electricity for the fans, for the world of figure skating society. So, you know, I would say it's only, I can say only positive things about this move.
No.
So I'm intrigued, sorry to interrupt, Dave. It's interesting because in sort of the North American culture, I find that there's much less emphasis on the coach from like a fan standpoint. I find with the super fan, we like to talk about who's with Tom Z, who's with Roth, who's with whatever. But in Russia, it really does seem like even Channel 1 on the skate today for the cup, they have like the coaches monitor always up. It seems like the coaches in that sport for Russia are just as popular as the skaters. Right? And this seems to be a big difference, I think. But they really are in the spotlight there. Can you speak a little bit how that's different?
Well, see, in Russia, the coaches becoming celebrities as well. Okay. Like Eteri is a celebrity. Tomorrow Moskvina is a celebrity. Tarasova is a celebrity. Mishin is a celebrity. So those people, when they walk in the street, they get recognized, and they have a very big respect from the government, from general public, and TV. Thanks to TV, they're doing the right job. You know, when they put like on the side this little window and they show the coaches, I think they respond because it's a show. In the end of the day, it's all a show. You know, back 10 years ago, I started filming coaches during the competitions, and I have a very good selection and a video selection in my home videos with the coaches, like amazing stuff, you know, like Nikolai Morozov, and when you watch Tarasova, now the new coaches like start like, you know, like the performances.
Evgeni was during Trusova's performance.
Right. You know, those videos are amazing. And I mean, we should do a show only because from the coaches side, you know, the video, because it's incredible. I mean, there are some French guys. There is a, you know, Ingo Steuer when he was a coach. I mean, it was amazing to watch him too. So there's so many funny and interesting footages there. And now that Russians, they are start using that, I think it's only great. And eventually, it only helps to get more popular, you know, people watching, in the end of the day, everybody wants to see the entertainment. Entertainment is running the business.
But I'm intrigued because with someone like Mishin, he seems so stoic, he seems very classy at the kiss and cry, the camera is there, but he's not being overly emotive. Whereas sometimes I feel like when we're watching the Eteri camp, they're performing for the camera. They all, like Danny G at the Russia Cup, he's making eye contact every time that the camera is on him. He looks right to the camera because he knows. But I think someone like Moskvina or Misha, this older generation, maybe they keep the theatrics to the side. Okay. I didn't know if I was missing it. Okay.
No, those guys, Mishin and Moskvina, they are like the primas, like they are the gurus. They are the gods of the skating, because so many years, every year producing top skaters, every year being smart enough to maintain our sport, and the way they present our sport. It's only, I mean, heads off. I mean, I have a huge respect to both of them. Both of them, they're going to be 80 years old next year. And,
crazy.
And they are amazing. They are pioneers of our sport. And because of them, we need to be able to show the rest of the world, look what's the figure skating about, and look how you can look when you are 80 years old if you are in this sport. That's another thing which is, I want to talk about it, that how important is figure skating for the whole world, which is never, people don't talk about it much. This is another chapter, which is when you let me know, I will talk about it.
Now, I want to ask you, you were talking about TV. Now, I don't know if you know anyone at Bravo, but, you know, they're located in New York, Ari, and I've always thought that we need a show with Kolya Morozov, Annabelle, Ilinik, maybe Oksana Bayul can visit. They could all be eating at Marivana. They could be going to the spas in Brooklyn. Like, this is the kind of entertainment that people don't know what they're missing in Bravo.
This is what I'm saying. Well, I will kind of make my mainstream speech, I would say.
Yes.
Figure skating is so underrated in the world of sports. And I said about this so many times. First of all, our sport is the best sport, in my opinion, in the world. Why? You learn musicality, you learn languages, you learn ballet, you learn gymnastics, you learn being on the ice, you learn, you get educated with the geographics, with the history. So our sports provide so many different angles of education for general human, for the kid that start growing up. And if we see, many skaters became very successful business people in the future because the knowledge they get from the skating is priceless. That's number one. Number two, if you take, this is another thing which is I'm going to try to produce. I want to do this. I want to take 10 figure skaters, like I already started. So let's say I had Tamara Moskvina. I do a small short video. And it's like, hi, my name is Tamara Moskvina. I started skating when I was like 7, 8 years old, when I was 7 or 8. Now I am 80 years old. That's it. So the way she look, Tamara Moskvina, Igor Spielband, Peter Chernyshov, Mr. Sato, John Nix. I mean, look at these people, the way they look, and put any other sport, same type of like 10 people, and look who looks like who. You will say, you will see that figure skaters, they will beat any other sports, because being on the ice is producing the azote, which is keeps the body young, which is not, people don't talk about it. Figure skating keeps the body much younger than all the other sports. This is not only my opinion. This is in University of, in St. Petersburg, Lesgov University, there is a study about this, and it's already proved. So once again, figure skating keeps people young. That's absolutely 100%. That's what's going on. I mean, people can argue with me. I can prove it easily. Also with figure skating, you know, there are so many different directions in the life, and the world, like I'm talking about generally the world. Russia is doing pretty good right now with this, but the world is doing a very poor job with the figure skating. First of all, here I was in USA for 6 months before I came to Russia, living in Las Vegas. When the pandemic started, when the COVID started, right? Many ice rinks, they raised the price from $10 to $20. So let's say many of my friends, they are coaches, but they have their own kids, they are skaters. So let's say if the coach goes to teach his own skater, own daughter or son, has to pay $20 for 1 hour for himself, $20 for his son or daughter. So that costs $40 for 1 hour. For 2 hours, it's $80 that he has to be on the ice to teach his own skater, own boy or daughter. I think that's ridiculous. That's number one. So number two, so many sports in the United States, they get scholarship in universities. Figure skating doesn't have a scholarship. If the parents, they know, like let's say if I'm a father and I have a young son or daughter, and I know if she's going to figure skate by the age of 15, 16, she may start skating for Cornell University or for Ithaca University, or she may go to Harvard, okay? All those places, they have ice rinks, but they do not provide any scholarship. And for the people, like general United States citizens, they don't need to have a skating in their life, because in the end of the day, you know, by the age of 14, 15, the kids are growing, they have different interests, Russians are getting stronger, so why should they continue with figure skating? And the numbers in the United States are so bad now, you know, they're sinking. You know, there are so many, during these 6 months, I know so many people, they left the figure skating. I know so many parents, they took their kids and they say, why should we do it? This sport where anyway, in the end of the day, Russia's gonna win and we don't get anything, we're only going to spend the money. So why should we? And I can understand them. So that's why if somehow we can convince, I mean, I know that it's not up to USFSA, but some kind of general body that can somehow push the authorities, United States authorities, to have the figure skating become a sport of scholarship, we can have so many skaters back to our sport. Yeah. Because today, figure skating is dying. In the United States, at least, dying. In Europe, it's dead. We don't, I mean, thank you to Stefan Lamiel, who is trying to somehow, you know, push the heart and kind of like get the skating a little bit back. And I believe that he can do it because his experience is like huge. I mean, and he's a really, he's ambitious. He's a great guy. He's smart. So, but him by himself to carry on the whole Europe, it's so difficult. I mean, look, UK, in England, we had the biggest names in figure skating: John Carey, Robin Cousins, Torvill and Dean. Those are like icons. Those are the textbook of the figure skating. Now in England, can you find any skater? None, zero. Nobody cares. Javi Fernandez left Spain. What we got there? Nothing going on. Stefan, Switzerland. Carolina Kostner, Italy. I mean, okay, we get two boys, which is okay, which is good. But in the end of the day, I mean, Germany, look, Savchenko, she left Germany, empty spot, nothing going on. And now in Canada, 2018, we had the Olympic champions of team competition, Canadians, all of them gone. It's not even 2 years, they all gone, nothing there. And it's not because of Canadian Federation is not doing a good job. They are great, I mean, I know them, they are wonderful people. They are hardworking, smart, but just generally the system somehow, it's not working, that we are losing skaters. We are losing big time. And our sport is in a big trouble. And I've been talking about this many, many years, in the past 2-3 years, I would say. And once again, Russia, wonderful. Like European Championships for next 4 or 5 years is gonna be 1, 2, 3 Russia. I don't see anybody there. Maybe French dance team, Papadakis, I mean. But beside them, it's gonna be all Russia. Is it good? Yeah, maybe it's good for Russia. Is it good for the world? No, it's not. So this is what I'm really worried about it.
It's probably not good, you know, when you think about it long term. What do you think the chances are of having competitions later? It's interesting what you were saying, to go back about the hours, because during the pandemic, we actually had to buy ice in 2-hour slots because they made the coach buy. So you had to skate for 2 hours, even as an adult, and I can't even get off of work until halfway through the session. So, but I would pay for 2 hours to go.
I know. It's a regulations, which is, what can I say? I mean, yeah, I mean, we got this pandemic. We don't know what it is exactly. What's going on?
Close, you know, and that's a problem too. Yeah.
Look, to me, it's really strange. I mean, I understand there is something going on, but when 100,000 people go into the streets, no mask, like the riots, the craziness, you know, I mean, I do not understand, you know, how come, you know, you go to one place, you cannot sit there, you know, everything is shut down, the restaurants shut down only outside. But in the meantime, 100, 200,000 people on the street, all together, no problems.
Yeah.
Well, so on this topic, I'm intrigued because Russia has moved ahead. Like someone even commented, Dave, on one of our videos, like, why are you talking so much about Russia these days? And it was like, hello, Russia's the only country that's putting out any skating at the moment. So I'm intrigued because it does seem alarming that when we watch that there is a large crowd and everyone isn't wearing masks. And if that's what that kind of gathering means, I fear that in North America, at least, there's nothing like that is going to happen anytime soon. Right?
Well, look, in Russia, I believe they also follow the rules. They try to follow the rules. But, you know, in the other day, I happened to went to the subway in Russia. It's like full. People are full in subway. Like hardly you can find someone with the mask. Even the regulation says that you have to have a mask. Some people, they do. But overall, this whole pandemic, to me, is a very strange, I don't know how to call it. It's just a disaster which is killing the whole industry, all like stereotypes, and it just breaking all the rules. I mean, can you imagine Broadway is shut down? Broadway was never shut down during the World War II, and it's shut down completely. Las Vegas, all the shows are shut down. The world of entertainment shut down. But in the meantime, 100, 200, 300,000 people, they are going on the streets, like, I don't know, in Belarus or in USA or like Europe, some places also, with the riots, with all the craziness. And I don't know, does those people getting sick? Is anybody like, you know, reporting that, or it just, nobody knows what's going on? I mean, I'm really, really worried about future of the human lives in the planet. Yeah. Because if we lose entertainment, I mean, we all believe that it will come back, but it will not come back the way it was before. And so many people, they lose their jobs. So many people, they get depressed. Some people commit suicides. And right now, it's only not good. The less good than not good things are happening, I would say. Coming back to your topic about the Russian Federation is doing maximum everything to keep the sport active, maximum. If they can use 100 people out of 100, they will use 100, not 99. If they have a chance to show the competitions and produce the competitions, they will go for it. And I'm sure ISU is also in favor of maintaining the figure skating. And I'm sure USFSA Federation also, because I know that they're also trying. The others, I don't really know much. But overall, we are in a big danger, big, huge danger. And somehow, someone has to do something. I don't know.
Now, when entertainment opens, I do think that there could be opportunities. You look at all of the shows that have had to close in Vegas. I know I listened to a podcast where your friend Oksana Bayul wants to be the star of a Vegas show. And I wanted to say, Ari, we need this to happen. It needs to sell cocktails. And you need to have Tanya Harding and Surya, who is also in Vegas. They need to skate together. Maybe you could get Johnny Weir. You need to have like the rebels of figure skating on the ice together. This has to happen. You know, it can.
Look, you are absolutely right. Here, what I can say, I am calling for emergency help, rescue of the figure skating. I would say personally, I'm calling for the rescue. I'm calling for all the like old timers, all the big names of the skating that right now outside of the skating society, the names like Scott Hamilton, Brian Boitano, like, I mean, I know that many of them, they care for the skating. I know that they live with skating, but I'm calling like all of them to somehow come back and somehow to save our sport. I'm really calling for the save of the figure skating. It could be, some people may say like, you're crazy, what are you talking about? You know, the figure skating is doing good and going to do good for the future. No, I do not think so. If we do not right now all come back together and try to save our sport, we are not doing well. I mean, in 10 years from now, I'm really concerned what's going to happen to our sport. And we have so many big names. We have such a great personalities, Adam Rippon, I mean, Johnny Weir, Tara Lipinski. I mean, we have Michael Weiss. I'm talking about people that, you know, I know that they really contribute so much to our sport, and they can do it also. But we just have to tell them how they can help us, and I'm sure they can. And we need to, I mean, talking about Surya Bonali, it was great that the Loser series on Netflix was nominated for Emmys, which is great. And we are like, I know that Surya is very passionate about skating, and she's a great person. And hopefully maybe someday her movie can come out, you know, about her story, because her story is amazing. I mean, there are so many great individualities and skaters that right now outside of everything. I mean, Patrick Chan, unreal skater. He's like amazing. What's going on with him? Where is he? I mean, at least I'm so happy to one of my clients. Oh, come on. I mean, I'm crazy, getting crazy. Elash Balde.
Yeah.
Like, Elash is doing a great job. He's so
everywhere.
He's everywhere. Good. That's what we need. Elaj is doing everything to get like inside the skating world and help this sport. We need people. We really, I mean, I'm calling for the rescue of our sport, seriously.
Do you think it's tricky for some skaters? Like, I mean, just knowing TSL over the years, Dave has done a good job of like bringing back old favorites for interviews and things like this. And some are so gracious to the sport and so eager to still be involved in it in some way. And others really have unresolved trauma about their time in the sport. I mean, it's just interesting when we go back and we talk about, there's like a burden to some of these former champions to keep paying back to the sport. And some of them seem to disappear. And I think it can also be a big problem.
Good, very good point, which is I brought it up during the Congress several times as a member of ISU Congress. When you become an Olympic champion, and then next day, you decided that you're going to university, you're going to Yale, or you're going to other places. The people, your fans, you completely killing them. You know, let's say, let's put it this way. Talking about the basketball, for example, okay? Let's say LeBron become a NBA champion, and next day he decided, you know what? From now on, I'm becoming going to become a restaurant owner, and I'm leaving the sport. So, LA is immediately going to lose such a huge amount of people going to that sport, you know. Or in a tennis, let's say Federer or Nadal. You know, if those guys were not going to go to the competition, then they're not going to perform. People not going to watch that sport as much as they could. So when someone become an Olympic champion, I think they at least have to stay a couple of years to go to the competitions, not to perform, but at least to be there, to do advertising of our sport, to sign autographs, to commentate, to be as an honorary guest, to sit in the stands or seats, and camera can follow them, and then they can come and make some kind of comments or something. But to just completely disappear, it's not going to do good for our sport. And like, I really hope the skaters, when they become an Olympic champion, they say, okay, now I'm Olympic champion, now I'm going to school, or now I'm going to run my home business or something. I wish they would somehow, we could have some kind of, not the rules, but the contract by the ISU that saying, you know, guys, it's not mandatory, but we will offer you, let's say for next 4 years, that you will go to this competition, to that competition, and be active and be ambassador of our sport. That's one of the issues also.
Yeah, it's a great point, because I think, you know, you look in the US, when Michelle Kwan and Sasha Cohen retired at the same time, and then there's a vacuum of that, and then there's no one there. But if Michelle posts a video of herself even rollerblading in a parking lot on Instagram, you know, the internet shuts down and everyone's, you know, looking at her and wants to see.
There's still the last two skaters, the average American. Oh, those are the only two women they can remember. The most recent women they think are Michelle and Sasha.
Yeah. Exactly. And until now, they are stars. Unlike we had several world champions in the United States that nobody remembers them. You know, they were just one day, boom. Like in Russia also.
We've had an Olympic champion that no one knows. You know, I mean, I don't know that the average American knows who Sarah Hughes is, but they all know Michelle as the last skater. I mean, I'm intrigued because I sort of thought about this just in the 80s in East Germany, because Katharina Witt became such a name for all of us. And I was like, but they also had Annette in 1980 who didn't really do much for East Germany in the sport right after she did that. It's kind of an interesting thing that some people choose to and some don't. Yeah.
Exactly. Once again, I'm like dearly calling for the help. Like whoever hears us, whoever listens to us. I mean, I'm asking for help, not for myself, but for our sport. Because without you guys, without big names, without people who spend 14, 15, 20 years of their life, you know, training every day and putting up so much energy and money, and now not being involved. And I understand some of them disappointed because of the rules change, some of them disappointed because of some coach didn't treat them well, or somebody didn't say something on the side, or some fan didn't write something which is they could love. But in the end of the day, I would say just put it all the like misery that you had before, all misunderstandings. And if you have any way to somehow come back and get our sport back, it will be very important, because we are in trouble. We are in trouble worldwide. I mean, Russia is doing very well, but if it's going to be only Russia and a little bit of Japan, we're still in trouble.
Well, thank you so much, Ari. This was so fascinating. And I do hope that people will listen and that they will, you know, be spurred on with ideas. So thank you so much for coming on the skating lesson.
Thank you, guys. Always admire you, what you do. At least someone is pushing it. And I'm so thankful to you guys. Thank you so much for being there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hello and welcome to This and That Part 2. It's a double feature. It is like the movies of yore, okay?
The old double bill. Give them the old.
Everyone is going to be like, oh my God, what happened? What's going on? There are going to be so many comments. Where are the timestamps? Blah, blah, blah. You know what?
It's like, just scroll. Just scroll. You got this.
No one, it's all right.
Drop that needle. Drop that needle and see where you get it.
Well, Jonathan, a lot has happened this week. You have a fabulous sweater on.
Thank you. So I was hoping you'd say so. It's Yves Saint Laurent.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes these feel like a neck brace, you know?
Alina has YSL gloves that she has that are studded. So
she couldn't afford the whole sweater? That's a joke, because I know she's very elegant.
I'm not the poor person. Oh my goodness, so much has happened this week, Jonathan.
Wow, Dave. Okay, so how much advance warning do you always have on these things? Very rarely in my life have I ever found you shocked by news.
I did not know about Evgenia. And it was...
You didn't. This is the one time it kind of caught you when it caught us.
I'm not surprised that something happened. I thought it would go one way or the other. I thought either she would stop skating or I'm not shocked. And I think that they have the perfect PR narrative, and I'm going to do a whole video about it. But you have to remember, we were just talking about Ari, about how the Russian Federation is paying, and the government is very involved. And Medvedeva is really one of the favorites of even like Vladimir Putin, who's really like loves her as an athlete. And the government, when Russia wasn't going to be able to, have their flag at the Olympics, they chose her to go speak. Like, she's a very important person within the culture, the country. And when she wanted to train in Canada, they made sure that could happen for her, even if it wasn't the preference. But I do think that economically it's more expensive for them to have someone train in Canada. It was more expensive to have her living over there, to have all the other masseuses and things like that.
And now go with me on this, Dave. It's going to seem like we're venturing into scary territory, but I think we're going to be okay. So the way that the government is involved in sports right now in Russia is a bit more reminiscent of that communist approach from before, in that they are footing the bill for most of these things, and then as a result feel like they've put their investment into you. I remember Katerina Witt talking about the Federation was going to be so upset with her if she just bailed and went to the US, because they're like, you're our investment. We've given you all this free training. We've given you all of this stuff. So, I mean, if they're really footing the bill top to bottom on this, it does make sense why they would want to keep those funds in-house in a way.
So it's kind of a hybrid model, right? Is the best way I think would describe it, is that yes, there is state funding. There's also funding that goes to the school and the coaches. It's different than obviously the funding in the US, where most of it is parents funding you. And I think with Ari saying, it's not survivable in the US right now. It's not really working. And I think that that's largely true. also, if skating can't help you get into an Ivy League school, it becomes less advantageous. So I think what he's saying is very true. When I was in Ithaca, he was talking about Ithaca and Cornell. You know, there are rinks up there. When I was there, Jamie Silverstein and Matt Savoy were both teaching lessons up there, and there were talented skaters who were up there who could do double, triple jumps and perform well and have that be part of your life. The skating would maybe have to be a little bit more regimented at a higher level, but I think it's very possible.
Yeah, because it does mean that they would have to instill collegiate competition, right? And so
there are club collegiate competitions, but not at the same level. There is a collegiate nationals. People will be leaving this in comments, but it's not a scholarship event, a sport, and it's not the same as a normal NCAA.
Because we've known very high level nationally ranked skaters that skate in those versus like collegiate skaters. Like the way we see in gymnastics or something.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. And then sometimes someone can just sign up for collegiate nationals, even if they're not. I mean, when Alyssa Cisney and I think Marai was there one year, and yes, they do take college courses, but it's a little bit mixed in terms of the level of competition, and maybe they don't do it every year. You know, I think you'd really need like a series together, and it needs to grow. Right. But I do think that what he was saying, it's very true, because you need to keep people that, of course, with the economics and
that if an Olympic dream isn't there, there's still a reason to be pursuing it.
You know, a lot of things changed over time. Look, there used to be millions of gymnastics programs, and sometimes rules that have good intentions, like when Title IX came in, instead of offering more, they offered less to save money, to then even it out, instead of creating additional opportunities. And some of these universities have so much money that they're cutting men's and women's gymnastics, and then they're giving the football coach a raise. I mean, it's just a little ridiculous. And there are so many problems with the NCAA that the athletes feel like indentured servants. And I think a lot of it will change, especially if the athlete, one of the problems with figure skating is obviously is they don't want you to be a professional athlete before you go to the university. Now, if you want to make collegiate skating a thing, you're going to have to relax those rules. So that
well, how do they do it for gymnastics?
You cannot accept a dime for any professional money from any. You cannot. So that's why someone like Jordan Weber had to be a team manager instead of competing. Now, had Jordan Weber competed in collegiate gymnastics, it could have helped the sport skyrocket to be such even a bigger moneymaker if you could have had Jordan and Ali Raisman competing at a slightly lower technical level, but competing against one another.
Against each other, yeah.
Right, and we were starting to see that with Kyla Ross against Maggie Nichols. This was going to be their fourth time battling it out. And it's like another storyline that adds to local news coverage. They started getting on ESPN on Friday nights, and they were really building this into something that is substantial. Again,
if I knew Karen Chen and Marai were at just full-time university right now competing at a collegiate event where maybe they had some watered down technical comment or content, I'd watch it.
You have to work on the rules too. That's the other thing, that you have to make the rules advantageous to everyone and not just be like, well, our IJS makes everything great. You have to make it so that the skaters will want to participate. And that is part of it. The men try to do it, but they've never been very successful in men's gymnastics in the last years. They try to do the real scoring. The women, much more popular. They have a very simplified scoring system. So, but I do think that could happen with skating, but you would need to really make it, and you'd have to start with a small number of schools. But I mean, something like a Cornell, which Ivies can't give scholarships to begin with, so maybe you'd have to do it. There are so many little nuances to this, but I do think that you can make it advantageous to skaters and to make it something that is great. Look, if skating could help someone get into an Ivy League school, that's going to keep people in the sport. Okay. Come on.
Anything for a scholarship. I knew someone who went to Duke, like it was their goal from the minute they could walk. Their parents put them in fencing until she could get a full ride to Duke on fencing, because they were like, we're just going to do this. And it worked. Like, I mean, insane. Who'd have thought?
So I do think that, if you could get into Duke or George Washington for skating and then compete, there are things that could happen, right?
Yeah.
But so Evgenia going to Eteri, I think, look, these people had such hurt and such drama, and then they looked so comfortable with each other. I think
it's that confrontation you have with a friend when there's that like the softening moment.
Yeah.
Like, suddenly, yeah, I used to do this with Brandon sometimes. We'd be like yelling. And then finally, like halfway through, we just start laughing and be like, all right, we don't really care, right? We're fine? Okay, great. It's like what I feel she just had with the tear.
Come on. That's awkward. Hashtag awkward. Now, I think for Evgenia, it's so interesting because I was talking to Russians who a week ago were saying she should retire. And then she goes back to Eteri and they're like, you know, I think it'll be very good. So,
if you're Eteri, this is a pretty big gamble you're taking.
No.
To produce some results, don't you think? Or they're going to be like, no, Brian messed it up too much for us to fix.
Of course.
Which is arguably in reverse what was happening. Like it was sort of the Brian camp was like, wow, we've inherited a very tricky situation here.
There's politics going on here between Eteri and the Plushenko school. So for her to take Evgenia is obviously very advantageous. For her, it's so interesting to me because remember, Eteri just prevented Evgenia from co-hosting Ice Age with Zagitova, which we'll also discuss because during the taping, Yagudin said something really foul that leaked out.
Ooh, that was bad, yeah.
But remember, that never would have happened if the two of them were hosting together. Remember, Eteri didn't allow her to do that. Now, she's back with Eteri. Everything is on the up and up, and they're continuing, and I think it'll give her a renewed confidence. I just think that when you are in such an no fault to Brian, but to train the intensity of Eteri, and your body and mind can't do it forever. When you relax, you're never going to be as confident again after that, right? When you're trying to do the same.
It's too instilled in you how that has to happen, yeah.
I think that they'll make one big push, right? Whether that gets her to the nationals and doing 5-6 clean triples, whether it gets her to the Olympics again, I don't think that that's...
Well, I'm intrigued because also in the time since Evgenia really came up with them, because obviously by the time she was winning the worlds and stuff, they had solidified their relationships plan, sort of. I think they've improved a little bit, that coaching staff also. So I'm intrigued now with this like merging of Eteri Camp's new ideas and Evgenia's idea. I don't know. I will be intrigued where it goes. It will be fascinating to watch.
She would have had a quadruple Salchow. So in like 2015, if that was what was needed, right? But that wasn't what was needed at the time. She was doing 17,000 triples at every practice, triple, and those kinds of things. I think, look, they'll give her a good push. She's keeping the programs from but they're going to redo them and put their stamp on it. Danny G was blindsided by this, allegedly, didn't know it was happening. And he favored Zagitova. Remember, Medvedeva chose not to use him as a choreographer, and that was some internal strife there. But, you know, I think that they'll make a push. I think she'll get the scores she needs if she skates well, like she did in 2019 when they pushed her to the World Championships. There's a lot of politics behind her in Russia. So, and the other thing that she has going for her is these other girls are looking less and less stable to me. I don't know what you thought about what we saw today, which we're about to discuss, but I noticed a couple of things with Maya Khormykh. So we've been saying her name wrong. It's a in the back of your throat.
It's not a solid K.
No, it's Maya Khormykh. So, and I don't even know if I did that 1,000% correct, but looking at her technique and how she's grown, do you notice that she's doing the Amber Corwin look behind you, like you're going out of, like you're backing out of the car, like out of the driveway pre-location when she's jumping?
We just need the beeping sound as she's looking back. Yeah, okay.
Patented by Amber Corwin, a true original and queen, okay?
Okay, yeah, it's true.
To Natalie Merchant, Ophelia, it was amazing. So that is obviously not gonna last.
Here's the interesting thing about, we'll just say Maya's technique, or maybe lack thereof in some ways. First of all, we have long pegged her the newest version of the Paulina Maria Sotskova installment, right?
Yeah.
She's filling that void.
Maybe she'll have a podcast one day.
One can only hope. What's the deal with her mom? Okay, so the arms seem unorganized to me, especially in the slow-mo, when you see her even kind of reach back, or like as she's checking or not checking, rather, when she lands, they seem in chaos, like she doesn't have the set plan. Mm-hmm. And I think when we see the most consistent jumpers, their arms are so organized and so well thought out. And that's, I think, to my eye, where she's really getting tangled. Is in the arm position, both in the takeoff and the landing. They just seem in chaos.
So that usually, look, Maya and Anna are both taller than they were last year. And one thing that I think is, you know, over time you compensate and you make things happen with your body to make it happen. And Anna Shcherbakova, the same, these jumps are becoming more difficult and less consistent. I think you could even tell Anna from the short to the long. I mean, it's so funny. Alexander Khormykh was a caller at the Cup of Russia first stage, and yet, I mean, she got joke marks for the short program when she completely under rotates.
The combo was, yeah. that was egregious. That was, yeah.
And she got 82 points for that. So,
yeah. And in my opinion, people always get mad when we mention the packaging, but obviously we know that it's a huge element. It's how they are perceived. I thought she looked slicker in what she decided to wear when she presented these two programs at the test skates.
I liked her costumes better at the test skate.
They made her look more sophisticated, and they made the lines look longer. This became more, kind of looked Evgenia knockoff-ish with this blue and purple and the free in particular. And yeah, I just thought it was more effective in the test skate. And I love the short program music, but this time the free skate music for Shcherbakova, it seemed such a random hodgepodge.
And you know, one of those pieces was going to be Castaneda's music last year, the Dario Marinelli music that's used in the middle there. It's so funny because she's very elegant from, you know, the knee up, right? But she has that dangling foot and it's not pointed and it's a little sickled. And it's becoming, as she's taller and growing and trying to extend and look more senior, it's becoming more and more glaring, especially with the white skates this season.
Because even when she does like a spiral, Dave, like you're saying, her extension draws you in, like you're totally looking at it because it's so amazing, and you follow the leg and it's so gorgeous, and then it just, like her foot.
Her upper body is raised beautifully, you know, and then this is gross at the end. But these are the kinds of things that they don't focus on because they're focused on the points, and that's partly the ISU, but then it's partly the coaches too. And they can fix that, but it's a bad habit that developed over many years. And we talked about it when she was a junior, and people said, you're very mean for picking on this. Well, this is what happens when you don't work on these things early on. It's just like technique. So the same, I think.
And talking about her technique, like, as we were talking about, like Maya got taller, so her arms seem unorganized. Anna, when she's picking in for a lot of these jumps, she is so thrusted forward with her torso. And I feel like I don't recall that happening with her. But what do you think?
More last season, but it's, look, they're trying to make these jumps happen, okay?
Yeah.
It is the body trying to do it to kind of generate rotation, but it will fail you over time. And I think that we can kind of see with Anna, the clock is ticking, right?
Yeah.
Rather than feeling like she's starting the season with a positive momentum, right? And it's funny how fortunes change, but you wonder, could Evgenia, you know, organize herself and maybe at least be competitive?
In a perfect storm, it might actually work out. Because you know what this reminds me of? In a way, now I know Medvedeva had the injury in 17, 18 also that she was contending with, but the way Anna's jumps they're just there, but you know that she's surviving the jumping techniques. It reminds me of that season for Medvedeva. Like she's just holding on.
You see that they changed the quads, but it wasn't really fully clean this week. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think she's fighting and working and doing everything she can to make them, but it's not going in a positive direction, right? And you think someone like Kosternaya, who's had injuries, but is a later bloomer in the season, last season, and it looks like if this year, if she can get healthy and then stabilize.
Yeah, and it seemed like such a frenzied, unorganized, chaotic lead up to those test skates. So I feel like we're just going to see her again and can maybe get our assessment later.
I think she has a hope, right?
I think so does Trusova.
Trusova's got a hope too, but she doesn't seem so happy in her current situation. So I don't know if you've noticed, and I'll talk about it more in the other video, but she is never in a picture with Hot Sergey. She no longer speaks to him ever since.
Trusova?
Trusova.
Oh.
She is ticked. She did not want that Kosternaya in the rink. And that's back from the Eteri days when they were competitors in that rink. But it makes sense that if you're a girl that's doing 5 quads and then you have like a dramatic girl who's not doing the quads and getting all the points, there's just such inherent competitiveness that is going, and different points of view that is going to build. I mean, imagine if you're doing 5 quads and getting beaten by someone who's doing 0. You're going to have a feeling about that. You're going to have some kind of way, all right? Like, it's like Tara versus Michelle and that kind of point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it's interesting also, I mean, just going back to the quad, like also this Maya attempt at the quad stop, I have never understood it. And this was the kind of quad mishap in her free at this event that I was like, I don't understand if you really have this, even in practice, even at a low percentage. It seems so out of the realm of possibility for her. So maybe this quad surge is not as immense or as deep as we once thought.
Quarantine is very leveling, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it was kind of a reset in some ways.
Yeah. And then I did think that Anna Frolova looked very organized and rather beautiful when she was skating here.
I have to say, like, we watched her a bit last season and she was fine. I didn't really have a tremendous takeaway, but her posture and her back, especially in that like hot pink number for the free, like she really maintained this thing. Now, I'm sorry for my ignorance. I did not know the woman who was there coaching her.
I'm not sure.
But I have to say, I just kind of liked seeing a new face.
I know.
Because then ultimately, even though it's a bit of the same formula, she at least looked so different than the fact that I couldn't point to her and say, Eteri, Mishan, whatever. She had some really slow spins, but she was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I agree. She was like a breath of fresh air. But how amazing that this is like the smallest, like it's such a small competition. It's on Channel 1 in Russia. Yagudin is commentating in between filming Ice Age. But we did touch on him being the commentator, and this is what he said to Zagitova, which...
we said that on Patreon, we were talking about it. That's why I was trying to remember. And just as a side note, while you pull that up, I would also, I mean, we know Channel 1 is state funded, like YouTube always tells us, but I have to say they also put together a nice presentation here. There's step and repeat, like that like backdrop with the number 1 on it. It enlivened the arena, made it seem like there were more people there, made it bright. They're doing it right there. They're treating it like their number 1 sport.
So I love it because sometimes they call it Channel 1, but then when I was talking to Tasha the other day, she's like, we will watch it short program, first channel. It's so funny is that whenever the competition starts, if they do the dance first, Natasha will always tell me, no, competition, it did not start yet. No. We watch it tomorrow, make it short program. We see, I will watch, so it's great. Okay.
Poor Annabelle.
This is what, I know. Listen, Annabelle, I'll get Natasha to watch you. Okay, you'll love her, she'll watch you, the whole thing. This came out yesterday. The host of the show, figure skater Alina Zagitova, after the performance of Nadezhda Mikolovkova and Maxim Marinin, drew attention to the big bruises on the knees of the actress. The Olympic champion, like no one, understands how hard it is for beginners on the ice. I wanted to tell our viewers to understand how our athletes, what kind of injuries they get, Zagitova said. However, the 18-year-old figure skater was unable to finish the phrase because she was interrupted by co-host Alexei Yagudin. He decided to joke that Zagitova does not yet know where the bruises on her knees really came from. Yegudin explained to Alina Zagitova that such injuries are received from other activities and not from figure skating. You know, we just have a real habit, like a real pattern with Yegudin, right? Like there's
a pattern that he can be outrageously offensive and inappropriate about gay people and straight people, including young women. Like this is horrifying. And you know what? Co-host Evgenia Medvedeva would not have made that comment.
Would not have made that comment.
Just, you know what Medvedeva would have said? You bet. Like, this sport is hard. Our sport is awesome. Like, it's really tough. Not a crude sexual joke to a teenage girl.
Amazing. Incredible that he would.
Just when you think that we've reached the limits of how shocked I can be.
Beloved champion in Russia, young person transitioning in her career, in her life, and like.
Void of drama, void of, you know, all this stuff, just a lovely, hardworking girl. And you know what, I always feel betrayed. It's like, I first heard the concept in a Will and Grace episode when Will's talking about how he went to like a Sesame Street show and saw Big Bird smoking afterwards.
Terrible.
It's like, you should never meet your hero. It just so upsets me that someone whose skating I enjoyed so much ended up being such a yutz.
Yeah, but I think it's consistent, and
yeah,
you may not see it. I'll be interested to see if it makes it to the broadcast, because Ice Age is actually taped, and then it's later. So not like Dancing with the Stars this week, where
I watched for you, Dave, forgetting that the first episode was 27 hours. Is that what it was?
You have to DVR it and watch it.
Yeah, I did it on Hulu. So I just.
Oh my God. But you know, Tyra took over the show through a production deal that she had with ABC. So they booted out Tom Bergeron, who really like appreciates the hard work people are doing. And Tyra
entered looking like a fire engine red loofah. Do you remember that dress when she came in? I was like, what, are we going to take a shower?
I thought she seemed narcissistic, and she has the attitude both in some of her quotes about what she can do for the show. And I thought, well,
there was too much pandering. Like, everyone had to comment. They love her. She's doing great. Like, they had to pump her up during the broadcast. Now,
because the viewers are turning. The viewers are
she's
not.
Probably slick. She's probably slick in a taped situation. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you, she was a little clumsy live.
She didn't know how to interview the guests and actually appear interested in what they were saying. She would ask the question, they would respond, but then she wouldn't be able to react.
This is the thing about reality TV, like she has done previously, is so much is reliant on those editors. And so without an editor here, and we're kind of left to realize how much she needed to improve.
I mean, have you
vote her off?
Ever watched? I only have one photograph remaining. Only one of you, two of you beautiful girls stand before me. Only one of you will be in the running to be in contention, to be America's next top model. Like, come on.
But Dave, she could have done that in 5 takes.
I know.
That's the thing. And then when you throw her live, it's a very different skill.
I never believed it when she would have her sit down moments with the girls, and it would be like the come to mama moment. And I'm so sick of Tyra bringing up her mother to like make her seem nicer. I don't believe Tyra's ever seen the show. I didn't get the vibe. I didn't think like she.
No, it seemed contrived. Her discussing it.
She didn't know who Johnny was. She was excited for him because he's like fashionable. So she was like, yes. And I have to say, the Carol Baskin thing.
Well, you know what's interesting, Dave? Like, to me, that was the only legit amateur. It was interesting with so many athletes, with so many performers, with so many skaters, whatever. Clearly, everyone was going to feel at home on a stage and moving. And this poor woman, I mean, not poor woman necessarily, depending on what you think about what happened with the ex-husband, but like watching her virtual reality segment where she's like learning how to practice dancing and she's just like going like this. And I was like, well, this was legit an amateur. This was legit.
But I have to say, when Tiger King aired in March, April, I might be messing up my timeline of events. I feel very differently about her being like, if it had been closer in the time, right? And she went right from the Netflix thing to it aired, it would have been like exciting. Having time to think that this woman is alleged to have potentially killed her husband and now they're showing her on TV, and then his family buys a commercial. I feel some kind of way about it watching. Like, I'm just like, it feels icky. It feels gross.
But to me, all of this television is.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's like an added nuance to this. And I don't know if I'm just like overthinking it, but I don't know. It really, the last 6 months of what's happened in the country and then to have I just felt gross. You know,
well, and then when the judges have to be like, love you, or something like, Carol, it's so great to meet you. And now listen.
Tiger, you're like, this.
Yeah, it's like,
remember, and they don't have people zoomed in over Skype watching, like what, you know, because, so it doesn't really work the same with an empty ballroom, because usually we would see if Marsha Brady was there, we would have Florence Henderson, or it'd be like, who's going to be there for Johnny watching? Are we going to see Tara Lipinski in the audience, glammed up? And you miss that element of it, and it is missing. It is not the same, and it does have.
And Dave was even more ridiculous because you hear, at first I would forget, because they had canned laughter, canned applause, canned whoops and hollers, like it sounded the same in some ways. And then I was like, wait, that's all a track? Like, that's ridiculous.
I was waiting for the Full House, like, music to come in, right? Okay, so Johnny. Finished in the middle of the pack. Obviously, he has more of an advantage with performance and musicality, but he's not the best dancer. He did try, but you could see, and I thought it was so interesting for when he would compete, when you see outrageous Johnny and then focused, nervous Johnny, and it was both.
And I think focused, nervous Johnny is a real Johnny. And I think the other one is this persona Johnny. So I know that their criticism was about seeing that dichotomy a little bit. And I sort of identify with it a smidge, because I think actually he's quite sensitive and probably quite serious when he's being real.
Yeah. But we met him in the package and it was amplified. I mean, he was in a kimono of the map of the world. I had to really rewind and look at how much did that cost? Who thought that looked fashionable? What the hell? And his hair is bigger because I think he's compensating, right?
Right.
But I thought the way that they
didn't play him so outrageous though, did they?
No, look, the beginning of the choreography where they put their leg, I thought that was really cool.
I thought it was great.
I thought it looked really great. I actually thought that the dance itself was good. The costuming for Johnny, I thought that they dressed him like Michael Jackson in see-through pants, and it was really strange for me. I was getting a Michael Jackson vibe with that kind of blouse and that paranormal, let's not make him sexual, but let's make him edgy. It was a weird look that he had going on. I didn't really care for the see-through pants that looked like dress pants, but yet you're like mesh. I don't know.
I mean, I thought he did, all things considered. I was like, good for him. I thought that was a totally great outing. And the judges were doing what I feel like I used to do when Miss America still had the swimsuit portion of the competition, is I would middle everyone. And then if someone was exceptional, go really high. And that's what it seemed they did here. Like, yes, he was getting 7s and 6s or whatever, but it seemed to be their MO to give almost like a good 3/4 of the mix, those numbers, with a few amazing and a few less so. So I felt like he just stayed in it.
They do that in general the first week on this show, so that scores rise, and people are always like, they're so mean. But the only person I've really seen get outrageously high marks the first week is Christy Yamaguchi when she got 3 9s and she could have gotten 10s. It was deserved. Like, yeah. But I would never accuse Johnny of having the same work ethic as Christy. Like, he's not known for that. And she was coming from Christy Ness. I think he'll have to work pretty hard to get, so I don't think it's bad that he got middle of the road marks, because he'll want to stay on here. It's a big opportunity for him.
He's an opportunist, that's for sure. So the more he can stay.
Like, all these people are potentially, right? So I think he's got a good chance. He's going to have to work hard, and I think he's capable of pushing, but they're not just going to give it to him. So
Yeah.
I think that maybe Adam had an easier go of it than he will have.
Well, he was a bit fresher on the mind, even though I still believe more people know Johnny Weir than Adam, but like the momentum is a bit away.
Well, he should have been on after the 2010. He would have been a much more interesting person.
And he probably would have won. It would have been like a huge to-do.
That was a business thing about the fact they should have had him against Evan. Really, that would have been the greatest. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Nicole Scherzinger on, who was a pussycat doll. I mean, she could dance. Okay, that was like having Paula Abdul as a contestant. All right.
Amazing.
Same arthritis cream. Love Paula. Okay, I think
I have the same mole. It's just hiding under my facial hair.
So yeah, I don't know. And then in other news, a couple update. Mariah Bell and Nathan Chen are going to do a virtual performance during the Japan Open. So people are pushing to be creative, but I want to see them skate.
Yes.
So I think that's exciting. But Jonathan, your girl, for years, you accused her of being boring, right?
Little did we know.
Jonathan, she's banned for 10 years. Now, I'm usually really tough on doping, and I have really mixed feelings on the Andrea Radicon situation. Even after watching the documentary, I'm like, well, and I just read the Grigory Rodchenkov book, and I took a picture of 3 pages.
Yeah, you sent me that excerpt. It's fascinating.
I'll send it on Patreon because it'll be interesting to people to read. To me, there's something so strange about this. There's something so odd that they pick the most boring skater and they ban her randomly when she's done competing. To me, it reeks of politics. Like there's something that I don't believe.
Here, let's give them Maria.
Well,
yeah.
And this is by Grigory Rodchenkov, and this is what he admits to it. He talks about when WADA was getting on Rusada's behind, right? About disappearing positive tests or, different tests that maybe they said were negative and then maybe they came up as positive. And he talks about that there was I think she was a track and field athlete. I'm going to mess up her name, but Plushenko, Pishchalnikova, and he says that Peshchalnikova, that her test was actually positive, but she was very protected and connected. She was in wait. The positive belonged to our biathlon princess, Svetlana Sleptsova, but there was no way we could report her positive because she was under the direct protection of Vitaly Mutko. As I have already explained, biathlon was a sacred cow in Russia. Not only did Sleptsova command a huge TV audience, but the powerful oligarch Mikhail Prokhorov was the president of the Russian Biathlon Union. We were in a real bind. The WADA team had witnessed this positive analysis with their own eyes, and they wouldn't forget it. Sleptsova was untouchable, but with the Sochi Games less than a year away, we couldn't afford a doping scandal. I explained the situation to Kumeyev and asked him whether Rusada could falsify Sleptsova's doping control form by inserting a different name and a non-winter sport. We couldn't make the positive disappear, but we could assign it to someone else, maybe someone in a non-Olympic sport. We might have got away with that a year ago, Nikita explained, when the laboratory sent the positive analysis to Adams and Rusada could take a while before sharing the athletes' names with the international authorities. But that was no longer the way things worked. WADA now insists the National Anti-Doping Agency download all documents and names, especially to Adams immediately, even before delivering the samples for analysis to the laboratory. So Grinya, no way to help you, my friend. Sorry for that. I was called Grinya, but don't forget, this was Russia, the land of miracles. I explained the problem to Nagornik, who put the squeeze on Rusada until they reluctantly falsified the case documentation. After their creative rewrite, Sleptsova's positive disappeared and was replaced by a 30-something female sambo wrestler suspected of EPO use. Sambo as in, I don't know if he meant Sambo as in Sambo 70 or sumo, but of course we had to explain our misreporting and delay in a corrective action report, which was one of the most challenging documents I've ever written. It took me 10 drafts to describe our web of obfuscations, which George Orwell had captured so well in 1984, when he talked about being able to forget whatever it was necessary to forget, and then draw it back into the memory again at the moment when it was needed, and then promptly to forget it again. This was the report in a nutshell. But I was just thinking, Jonathan, just having read that and having heard about Sotskova and furosemide, like...
Having just rewatched the 2018 Olympics and knowing if she was on something, she wasn't on the right thing to help her.
Now this is to be skinny, and they're saying it's after competition and for her wedding, and I don't know. I don't know if she ticked someone off or she's a pawn or what, but the kind of games that were discussed in that book, I just thought it just seemed convenient, right?
Yeah. That she'd be sacrificial.
I cannot prove that.
You just ask your questions.
Theory, the question. It just seems so convenient that like they have a skater test positive for something, and yet it's
and then her inevitable suspension, which has no bearing on the sport.
And it's so a skater that no one really thinks twice about. Unfortunately, but she's not a huge star. So, but she's known enough. She's an Olympian. You know, we can't say she was not.
She had a couple seasons where she was medaling in things. Yeah.
Yeah. Just saying. Just curious. Okay. I thought that was.
Yeah.
Great book. Really recommend it. I would.
Yeah. I mean, even in reading those 3 pages you sent, like it was so dense.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. Like each page is so chock full of like all this stuff that it would take me forever because I'd have to reread each page to absorb it all.
Yeah. But it did make me feel like, whoa, about this whole world.
Yeah. This whole, what do you mean? World collectively, or the world of doping, or the world of Russian sport?
And people taking things that are the therapeutic use exemptions, and you know, there's just like a lot of games going on, or a lot of
because a lot of times they'll bring up Simone Biles and Adderall. Well, excuse me, like Adderall has limitations also on what it's going to provide for an athlete. Like if that helps her focus or
and I don't mean this with any disrespect to Simone. However, as someone who took Adderall, and she takes, I think, a different drug, not Adderall, just using Adderall colloquially, and amphetamine of some sort. It is an appetite suppressant. It does help you focus. And Simone seems like someone that could have that kind of a personality. But to me, the appetite suppressant is what's so fascinating, because most athletes, when they stop for a year and a half, we see their bodies go through these huge changes, and then they're working to get back in shape and whatnot. Simone experienced none of that, but she was on that drug perhaps the entire time. That's a huge advantage. She's the one gymnast who never lost a beat when she retired. Her body didn't like grow, and you know, it just is interesting to me that I think it was a huge advantage, and being on a drug like that is certainly can help that. So I thought that was really interesting. I mean, obviously she's a very gifted athlete, and her body might be a little different, you know, who knows how much she worked out, but she did take a vacation for a long time, and she didn't seem to have those adverse effects.
That's any consequences, yeah.
It makes me wonder, you know, and what is fair and what's not fair. And that doesn't take anything away from the fact that I think that she's a phenomenal athlete.
Right.
Do I think that the Adderall is making all the difference? No. Do I think it may have helped her in some ways? Yes. I still think she's incredible. I still think that she is absolutely...
Well, and you know what, quite frankly, and again, I am very aware that meldonium was completely fine when Tuktamisheva was taking it. So you know that she had a boost in some ways, but she had to use that boost. you know, as we learned about meldonium, it just offered you the opportunity to train more, and she took it. You know what I mean? Like, there's still something very admirable about what she achieved that season. It's insane. It was possible only because there was a drug that was helping her heal so quickly. But I mean, there's still a tremendous ability she put into that.
I rewatched that program this week.
The world champion one?
Look at, and I think I was watching Europeans. I think she skated a little better on the free.
And that was when she first was debuting the axel, the triple axel. Was not until Europeans, I think.
Look at the speed in the second half of that program. She was rather slow when we saw her in Vegas. Unbelievable. The difference in performance and confidence and speed and lightness of movement that she had when she was just like dancing at the end of her program and everything. And yes, she was younger, but
yeah, but she was rebounding quicker.
It makes you wonder about all of it. It does. It's just like, it is what it is, you know? Like,
and then what's been fascinating
don't hate the player, hate the game. I don't hate her for it at all. She's allowed.
Not at all. It was a completely legal substance that someone told her this would help, so she took it, or whoever, and it did. I mean, but what was interesting for me then was to see, without it, she kind of devolved, and then slowly in her own way got the axle back, started doing quads, like kind of did it the slow, arguably more natural way. And it happened, it just happened a lot slower and later.
Yeah.
Who's to say she needed it then? Maybe she would have found her version of that back then as well. But
God, that was the best season.
I know.
Gracie, Ashley, Tukdemisheva,
Radionova,
dancing to J-Lo. Come on. Yes, buddy. Yeah.
That's back when we were still, will Lipnitskaya come back? That was who might come back. And
remember she had the arms and it looked like she had a skin infection because she had that, like, that costume with the rhinestones up the...
Yeah.
The next year she's writhing to Titanic. What?
Yes, exactly.
God. Okay, on the sport.
Her heart will go on because meldonium is a heart medication.
So much has happened, you know.
I know. You know, even the whole turmoil about the Medvedeva going back to Eteri thing seems like a month ago already, and it was just a couple of days.
Incredible. Yeah. Okay.
I wonder what that's going to do for morale at the rink. Like, maybe she's going back like a hometown hero, or who knows?
Well, think about it. Like, Zagitova was her main, like, peer at the time, and she's retired. So,
yeah.
Listen, she reminds me of Eteri so much. Okay.
Who?
Medvedeva.
Oh, interesting.
To me, they are both gritty, determined. I don't get that same vibe. I get like a more perfectionist, like student vibe from Zagitova. Like Medvedeva, yes. I get like a street fighter vibe from. I think she and Eteri are very similar.
Yeah, and that could be that kind of closeness, because again, we know that there was, or I mean, listen, who knows? But it seems like they had a different kind of special connection than she ever had with Yulia. Or ever
I mean, Eteri's sister posted a picture of Evgenia at her son's like baptism. So this is like very family.
Yeah, she's ingratiated. She is one.
Marina Hoffman is very happy about the return. Okay, she was.
It's much.
I think her son's way cuter than Mini Plushenko, I have to say. Like Eteri's nephew, Ephraim.
Those are fighting words. Those are fighting words.
Tennis player. He's going to be a real champion. Okay, I see it. They're in Saint-Tropez this week. I'm watching. Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm following Marina Tudberidze Hoffman, like on Instagram. I don't know.
No, I feel like I get the screenshots from you when it's necessary. No. And you've given some good ones with the was it their father that was a war hero, or the grandfather
apparently?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that Eteri's mother was also named Eteri. I was rewatching that 1+1 documentary.
Is that the Oklahoma City one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So Eteri's the youngest of 5. It's the 3 girls, then the brother. The father wanted the mother to have an abortion. She didn't have it. She had a very difficult pregnancy. She fought to the end. The daughter was named Eteri after the mother. And
the rest is history.
The rest is history, okay? Incredible. All right. We need that full biography. I want to read I want to know about all the sisters, the personalities, what they're doing. Come on. All right.
Yeah, because they all have to have this force somewhere inside running through them.
Yes. Okay.
It's an intense Thanksgiving. Not that they celebrate Thanksgiving.
Hold an edge and look sexy, everyone. Bye.
Bye, guys.